School's out. Completely. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 scariest high school horror movie moments. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're ranking the most frightening, tense, or otherwise scary moments that take place in a high school setting within a horror film. We're also going to loosen our criteria a bit here and include horror films that were about high school kids, even if the specific entries in question do not take place on school grounds. Number 10. They Want Everyone. The Faculty.
They want everyone.
The Faculty is something of a forgotten gem from the late 1990s horror scene. Messy effects work combined with a hip, young cast, Robert Rodriguez's assured direction, and a great screenplay from Scream writer Kevin Williamson. Simply stated, the rated R flick just goes for it, as evidenced by a couple of scenes that still stand the test of time. For starters, there's the gross part where a teacher's scalp and hair comes off in the hand of a student in the school showers. Meanwhile, there's also a scene where the kids all take an experimental drug to prove they aren't possessed, which pays homage to John Carpenter's The Thing in the best possible way.
Shoot her in the head, Casey.
Number 9. Teen Wolf. Ginger Snaps.
Hello, Bridget.
Speaking of underrated horror franchises, the Ginger Snap series is beloved by fans of a certain age for its smart and forward-thinking themes of feminism, puberty, and sexual awareness within its narrative of a vicious werewolf. Of course, this isn't to say that the first Ginger Snaps doesn't have its fair share of gory, violent moments, as the title character Ginger Fitzgerald causes plenty of carnage. Case in point, a scene where Ginger, who is quickly losing her fight against lycanthropy, murders the high school janitor in a fit of rage over how he looks at her sister. This sibling bond is actually one of the aspects that makes Ginger Snaps such a memorable film to this day.
I don't like how he looks at you.
Number 8. Choke Point. Final Destination. The Final Destination franchise has earned an impressive run thus far, with 5 films to its credit. We're taking it all the way back to the OG Final Destination film for this entry, however, with one specific fan-favorite scene in mind. Sure, we could have gone with Miss Luton's overkill death in her home here, but instead we're gonna go with Todd's horrific shower scene. Maybe it's the tense realism with which it's shot, or it's the image of Todd's bloodshot eyes as the makeshift clothesline wraps around his neck. Whatever it is, we can't help but cringe as we watch him struggle for those scissors that are just out of reach. Number 7. Nancy Gets Stabby. The Craft.
It all got out of hand, and I'm sorry.
The Craft is either delightfully cheesy or hopelessly nostalgic, depending on the age at which you saw the film. For many, it's a quaint throwback to the popularity of goth and witchy culture in the 1990s, anchored by a talented cast of fresh young faces. Fairuza Balk in particular stood out as the troubled trailer park witch queen Nancy Downs. Balk honestly steals the show, not only with her striking appearance, but also the intensity of her acting. There's an energy that ramps up as the film pushes forward, especially the scene where Nancy attacks new girl Sarah with a knife. The attack comes from virtually out of nowhere, with Balk's slash fit successfully silencing any elements of camp present until that point. Number 6. Bait and Switch. Scream.
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You might be picking up a focus on horror films from the 90s and early millennium here, and you wouldn't be wrong. Here, however, we have that game changer of self-aware slashers, Wes Craven's iconic Scream. Although only the Fonz Henry Winkler meets his demise on high school grounds, Ghostface made his presence felt right away from Scream's opening scene. It's a now classic bait and switch, where Drew Barrymore, prominent on the film's posters and frequent talk show promoter of the film, gets gutted and hung from a tree almost immediately. Plus, beyond all the gory details, Barrymore's phone conversation with the killer prior to her demise is just chilling.
Final question. Are you ready?
Please leave me alone.
Number 5. Heads Up, Prom Night. We're heading back to the 80s for our next entry. Although, to be fair, you'd be forgiven for thinking this film was a product of the late 70s. Prom Night was actually filmed in 1979, which explains its focus on the disco music and fashion that was popular at the time. No one's laughing at the film's climax, however, as a string of murders and one memorable decapitation put one serious damper upon everyone at this high school prom. The soft-focus cinematography and setting may evoke memories of Carrie, more on that later, but prom night more than stood out on its own, eventually spawning a franchise. Number 4. Sister Hacked, Halloween. Okay, so we know that Michael Myers doesn't kill anyone on school grounds in John Carpenter's classic original Halloween. However, the film, along with Bob Clark's Black Christmas, helped popularize the slasher tropes of high school kids in peril, so we're giving this legendary film a pass. Plus, Michael's been killing off teens since he was barely tall enough to hold a kitchen knife, never mind stabbing his sister to death with one. Finally, Halloween gets special mention simply for being that age-old sleepover litmus test for watching your very first scary movie. It's iconic for many reasons, but we'll always remember the shivers Michael sent up our spines when we roamed our high school halls.
Michael?
Number 3. Body Bag, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Tina?
Fans of Wes Craven's classic franchise already know this, but the first Nightmare on Elm Street film is a legitimately creepy experience. There are barely any one-liners to be had, as teen murderer Freddy Krueger haunts the dreams of all the high school kids on Elm Street. We're led at first to believe that Tina is going to be the hero of our story, but when she's killed in her sleep by Freddy, our focus is shifted to Nancy Thompson, who's having visions of the same razor-gloved madman. One of Nancy's early dreams is in class, as she witnesses Tina beckoning her from the hallway, clad in a bloody body bag. It is dark, disturbing stuff.
Hey, Nancy! No running in the hallway.
Number 2. Peter Possessed, Hereditary.
Peter, what's wrong?
The most recent film on our list proves that horror is flourishing and still able to push people's buttons. Hereditary was one of the breakthrough genre hits of 2018 thanks to a harrowing occult storyline and an incredible performance from lead Toni Collette. For this specific entry, however, we're going to mention Alex Wolff and his portrayal of 16-year-old high school student Peter. Teen possession scenes have been done to death at this point, no pun intended, but Peter's slow and explosive build during an otherwise uneventful class still gives us chills. From Wolff's awkward hand gestures to that final nose-breaking blow against his desk, the scene is overwhelmingly intense. Before we name our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Number 1. Telekinetic Death Prom, Carrie. You know this just had to be number 1, right? Carrie White gets her revenge upon all of those who cruelly tormented her in director Brian De Palma's classic adaptation of Stephen King's popular novel. An awful dose of dumped pig's blood is what ultimately sets Carrie off on a telekinetic death spree, as she uses her powers to lock the doors and horrifyingly burn the senior prom and its partiers to the ground. De Palma's split-screen technique is put to perfect use as it depicts Carrie's frenzied reaction in the fiery, chaotic aftermath. Carrie White may burn in hell, but this moment is forever burned into our memories. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Watch Mojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.